Hi, everyone. Welcome to this Power of Work presentation on motivation at work. We could always use some of this, right? So let's get started. Okay, motivation. Motivation, is it always easy? Let's be honest, sometimes trying to sustain the drive through the tasks and projects that we do can be pretty challenging, even sometimes in our own career, even if it's our biggest goal in life, it can feel like we're pulling ourselves on a swamp by our own hair. We have all been there. And honestly, effective self motivation is one of the main things that distinguish high achieving professionals from the rest, right? So, how can we become one of those people? How can we keep pushing onward, even when we don't really feel like doing so? To a certain extent, motivational it's a personal matter, right? And this gets you going might not do anything for me, right? So maybe something that really, really motivates me is not exactly the thing that motivates you, and so on. But today, we're going to be seeing some strategies that have worked for most people. And it can be applied in different areas of your life if you like. So we're focusing right now at work, but if you see that this works in that area of your life, can be very much be applied to any other area of your life. So maybe if you're trying to lose weight or save for retirement or implement, any initiative or task at work. So if you have ever failed to reach an attainable goal because of, procrastination, we've all been there, or maybe a lack of commitment on any of the ends, all of it has, right? So stay with us through this presentation because we're going to be seeing 4 sets of tactics that are really, really going to help you propel forward at work. So these are the 4 tactics of motivation at work that we're going to be seeing today. Design goals, not chores. Effective rewards. Sustain progress, and harness the influence of others. So let's get into them. What are these about? The first motivation tactic that we have is design goals and not chores. What is this about? So, many research has documented the importance of setting goals. These studies shows us that, for example, when there's someone that works in sales, right? And he has a certain targets. They close more deals when they have those targets set for themselves than when they're just a huge list out and about, right? So, abstract ambitions such as doing your best or working hard are usually less effective than when we have concrete things, right? So, for example, if we're bringing 10 new customers a month, we know that we have reached our goal of bringing those set 10 customers rather than just saying, oh, I want to bring more customers this month. How many, right? What is the goal that we want to reach this month? That specificity helps us feel good as we try to plan to reach them. So, a first general rule of the design goals and not chores is that any objectives you set for yourself or agree to set for yourself should be specific, right? As much as specific that we can be, the easier it's going to be to obtain those goals. Goals should also, whenever possible, trigger these in-strength rather than end-strength motivation. What do I mean by this? Is that instrumentality motivated is when it's seen as its own end, and intrinsicality motivated is when it sees as serving a separate ulterior purpose. So when we are doing this instinct type of motivation, is that we know the end, the goal that we're going to reach with this. Opposingly, if we're only focusing with extrinsic motivation, it's when it's going to serve a purpose that it won't get you to the ultimate goal, right? So everything that you put yourself into each week when you're planning your goals ahead for the week, for the day, for the month, the goal that you're reaching is getting you closer to the biggest goal, right? So we have this really nice phrase here. The trick is to focus on the elements of the work that you do find enjoyable. Truth is, there might always be that little something that we do not love. But if you implement that thing that you enjoy in everything you do, it's gonna be easier to make it, and it's gonna be easier to get to the goal. And that's pretty much gonna brings us to our next one, because if we meet our goal, we can find rewards, right? So we have our second motivation tool, and this is find effective rewards. Some tasks, or even like stretches in our career, can be very onerous, right? In which case, it can be really, really helpful for us to create external motivators for ourselves over the short to medium term, right? So we have the rewards for the day, if that's where you want to start, our rewards for the week, our rewards for the month, our rewards when we finish a certain project, and so on, right? This especially is if like this complements incentives offered by your organization. So honestly, if you work in a work environment where they implement effective rewards, it has proven that it's been very, very useful for workers to be there. But we do have to be careful to avoid perverse incentives. What are these? So, one mistake is to reward yourself for the quantity of the completed tasks or for speed than when you actually care about the quality of the performance. So if you're gonna say, I'm gonna do 20 reach outs today or whatever that you do in a day, and you're like, no, I'm gonna do like 30 today, or I'm gonna complete all the tasks that I have today, but you do them with like this speed that is gonna not help with how you do the work, with the quality of the work, then that's not effective. So when you're setting your goals and setting your rewards, remember that they have to come from that place of you actually doing the best performance possible, right? So next thing is that a lot of research has shown that like the goal balancing shows that the goal of achievement sometimes license people to give in to temptation, which set them back. Meaning, this could be like, oh, today my reward is going to be not work tomorrow. And then you're gonna be have this pile of work and set yourself back. Pretty much if you're, working out and you meet the workout of the day, but then you're like, my reward is gonna be eat a whole pizza by myself. It's kind of the same thing. We don't want the reward to set you back, right? To put you in a place where you're gonna feel like procrastinating again, to feel like less motivated. So these rewards have to be things that are gonna push you forward to the next step of what you want to do at work. Another thing is that some external incentives are more effective than others. So, for instance, in some experiments, researchers have discovered that many people, if not most people, work harder to qualify for an uncertain reward. So when you don't necessarily know what the reward is going to be, that like curiosity sets people to work harder. Another thing is that sometimes you have to analyze yourself and see which works best. Because for some people, the reward could be not losing something. So many people at work implement this thing of like, if you work this much, you won't lose the next project that is going to give you a raise, or you won't lose 10% of commissions, right? As opposed to some people that getting something motivates them more, like saying, if you finish these tasks, then you're going to get an extra day of vacation on the next holiday you take. So it depends on you. This is where you really have to sit down with yourself and see, like, what motivates me more? Not losing something or getting something? Do I want to surprise myself and set myself for an uncertain reward? Or do I want to be really clear on what I'm getting so I achieve my goals of the week? This is something that you can implement with your teamwork if you work in teams, or this is something that you can have for yourself that you know will keep you going on your own terms. Then we have something sustained progress. So, what is this tactic all about? When people are working towards a goal, they typically have this burst of motivation on the early stages. And then on the middle, people are tend to like stall out more, right? We get like really excited at the beginning. I'm gonna get all this done. This is really exciting. And then whatever happens, that we're just kind of like all the way down, right? Good thing. Research has uncovered several ways to fight this pattern. I refer to the first as short middles. What are short middles? If you break your goal into smaller sub goals, let's say weekly instead of quarterly, or targets, depending on your job, then you're giving yourself less time to succumb to the pesky slump or to feel like you did something wrong. Any aspect that gets you to the stall out position. Then our second strategy on this is to change the way you think about the progress you have already achieved. When we have already made headway, the goal seems within reach, right? So we tend to increase our effort because it's right there. I mean, that's the goal is right there. We can see it, right? So for example, consumers in loyalty programs tend to spend more when they're closer to earning a reward. So you can take the advantage of that tendency by thinking of your starting point as being farther back in the past. So maybe the project began not the first time you took the action, but the time it was first proposed, right? So maybe you're like, oh, I need to start this project. And no, but you already started when you first thought about it. And that was ages ago, right? And when then you proposed that and it was accepted, and that was a long time ago. So whenever you set your mind and you see yourself closer to the goal than when you first started, you get very much more motivated to keep going because it's within reach. And you can really, really do this with that short middles, because there's always a goal to be reached within the day, within the week, right? So, and another mental trick that involves focusing on what you've already done up to that midpoint of a task, and then turning your attention to what have left to do. Okay, so the research has found that this shift in perspective um, is like increases your motivation. And this can be seen in all areas of our lives. If you sit back and think about it, it's very much true. An example of this is, let's say there's a frequent buyer there's a frequent buyer promotion, right? And you emphasize in the finished steps that already happened. So you tell your customer, you have already completed 2 of 10 purchases, right? That increases the customers wanting to be like, oh my God, I already have some of this. I'm gonna keep going, right? So this increases the customer purchases at the beginning and emphasizes the missing steps. You're 2 purchases away from a free reward. So you're like, oh, okay. You see it like a shorter amount of time that it's gonna take, as opposed to saying like, oh yeah, like you have to do all of this before, and then it just seems unobtainable. It seems like it's gonna take a longer time, as opposed to telling your customer, oh, you're just 3 purchases away, or like if you join us next week in this event, you'll get this. Oh, that's doable, right? This is within reach. And this literally spurs consumption as buyers nears the goal. And you can do this with yourself in absolutely any area of expertise. Lastly, but not least, we have something that is harness the influence of others. Like it or not, even if you are an introvert, humans are kind of the social creatures. We do look at others. We look around, we see what others are doing, the actions they take, and this does influence to an extent how we do the things, right? So when you are taking this time to serve, that's why it's really important to, maybe sit next to a high performing employee, and that can increase your output because now you know, oh, this is what this person is doing. Maybe it will work for me too. It might not, but at least you are within that positive, high performing environment, right? When it comes to motivation, the dynamic it is a little bit more complex just because it's so different for everyone, right? So maybe instead of talking to these peers about what they're trying to accomplish with their own hard work and why they would recommend doing it. So you're like, oh, why are you doing this? And why does it work to you? Like, how would you recommend it? And this keeps you in a flow of this positive motivation environment. Also, interestingly enough, giving advice rather than asking for it may be even more effective a way to overcome motivational deficits. And we see this everywhere because it boosts our confidence. And when our confidence is out there, it spurs our action. We really realize what we have to offer, what we can do. So maybe talk to people where you know you'll get something from them that you don't know, but you'll be able to offer something that you do know. So then you have that motivator of feeling that you're giving and getting. A final way that we can share this harness this positive social influence is to recognize that people who will be best motivated you to accomplish certain tasks are not necessarily those who do the tasks well. This can be very important because sometimes, there are folks who share a big picture goal with you, right? And maybe close friends, family, mentors. And thinking of those people and our desire to succeed on their behalf can help provide the powerful in-string incentives we need to reach our goals, right? So sometimes you're like, oh, I'm really good at this. I'm going to share it with someone that understands what I'm talking about. But maybe to you, it will motivate it more to talk about it with your children, to your partner. And then when they see, like, oh my God, look how smart my parent is, look how they're doing this. And you're like, yes, I am. And I'm going to do it because look how proud they are of me. Right? So it can be, you can use this influence socially, not only at work, with the people around you, and you'll find which is the best way to go within this area for you to be motivated. All right. So let's do a little brief of everything that we have said. First, we're gonna have the set of goals that we want within a short, medium, and long period of time, right? In all of these goals, we're gonna be doing them with something that we really like and love, so we feel motivated to do it. Then we're gonna have the effective rewards. So once you've done that, the goal that we designed previously, you're going to get a reward from it, from yourself, from your team, right? Depending on how you set this. And then we're gonna have this sustained progress because you're putting yourself those small medals, right? To feel the goal within reach. And then you're going to harness this with other people. So it's not you by yourself and you have this motivator to keep going. So that's useful right now. But I hope these 4 really good tools help you in your working journey because you are not alone. We have all been there. And we really want to help you succeed in your career. Thank you so much for joining us today.